On a cold and quiet morning, the post office felt heavier than usual. The sky was gray. The wind was slow. Even the birds were silent. Mr. Kareem, the old postman, was sorting letters like he did every day. He had worked in this small town for more than 25 years. He had seen thousands of letters in his life. Happy letters, angry letters, important letters, love letters. But that morning, something unusual caught his eye. At the bottom of a small pile of mail, there was a thin, dirty envelope. It looked different. The paper was old and slightly torn from the edges. The handwriting on it was small and shaky, like someone very young had written it. There was no proper address, no street name, no house number. Only 5 simple words were written in pencil. To my dad, Heaven. Mr. Kareem stopped. He stared at the envelope for a long time. At first, he thought it was a joke. Maybe some children playing around. Maybe someone trying to be funny. But something about the writing did not feel like a joke. Felt real. He slowly picked it up. The envelope felt light, but for some reason, his heart felt heavy. He looked around the office. No one seemed to notice him. The other workers were busy talking and laughing. But he could not laugh. He sat down quietly on his chair and turned the envelope in his hands. He whispered to himself, "Who writes to heaven?" For a moment, he thought about putting it aside. After all, there was no address. There was nowhere to send it. It was impossible to deliver. But curiosity and something deeper inside him would not let him ignore it. Carefully, he opened the envelope. Inside, there was one small folded paper. The paper had light blue lines from a school notebook. The edges were not cut straight. It looked like it had been torn from a copybook. His hands felt slightly cold as he unfolded it. The writing inside was uneven and sometimes the spelling was wrong. It was clearly written by a child. He started reading slowly. "Dear Dad, I hope you are not angry that I am writing again." Mr. Kareem blinked. Again? The boy had written before? He continued reading. The letter was simple. The sentences were short, but every word felt heavy. The boy wrote about school. He wrote that math was hard now because no one helped him with homework like his father used to. He wrote that he tried to fix a broken chair at home because he wanted to be the man of the house. He wrote that his mother cried at night when she thought he was sleeping. Then came a line that made Mr. Kareem's breath stop. "Dad, I am trying to be strong like you told me, but sometimes I still feel small." Mr. Kareem swallowed. He felt something painful move inside his chest. The letter continued. The boy said he missed his father's laugh. He missed the way his father carried him on his shoulders. He missed hearing someone say, "I am proud of you, son." Then, at the bottom of the page, written darker than the rest, were the final words. "Please write back if you can. I will wait. Love, your son." The room suddenly felt too quiet. Mr. Kareem lowered the paper slowly. His hands were shaking. For years, he had delivered letters between people who were alive. Messages from one house to another, from one city to another. But this was a message from a child to someone who would never answer. He felt his eyes burning. He tried to blink the tears away, but they came anyway. He quickly removed his glasses and wiped them, pretending something was in his eye. But it was not dust. It was pain. He imagined a small boy sitting alone at a table, writing those words carefully. He imagined the child walking to the mailbox with hope in his heart. Hope that somehow, somewhere, the letter would reach heaven. He imagined that boy waiting near the window every evening, watching the road, waiting for the postman to bring a reply that would never come. Mr. Kareem closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered his own son. Years ago, he had lost him in an accident. The pain had never fully disappeared. It only became quieter with time. But this letter made it loud again. He looked at the envelope once more. To my dad, Heaven. It was impossible to deliver, but it was also impossible to ignore. For the first time in his long career, Mr. Kareem did not know what to do with a letter. Should he throw it away like undelivered mail? Should he pretend he never saw it? Or should he do something that no postman had ever done before? He folded the paper carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. Then he held it close to his chest. Outside, The wind moved softly through the streets. Somewhere in this town, a small boy was waiting, and Mr. Kareem knew one thing for sure. This letter was not finished yet. Sammy was only 9 years old, but his eyes looked older. People in the neighborhood often said he was a quiet child. They thought he was shy. They did not know that silence sometimes comes from pain, not personality. 2 years ago, Sammy's father had left for work like any normal day. He had smiled, touched Sammy's hair, and promised to bring sweets in the evening. But evening came without him, and the next day came without him. And then a group of men came to the house with serious faces. After that day, Sammy never waited for sweets again. Their small house felt different without his father. The walls felt empty. The dinner table felt bigger. Even the air felt colder. His mother tried to stay strong. She worked long hours sewing clothes for people. At night, she smiled in front of Sammy. But when she thought he was sleeping, soft crying sounds came from her room. Sammy heard everything. He just never said anything. Every afternoon after school, Sammy would finish his homework quickly. Not because he loved studying, but because he wanted time for something important. He would take a small plastic chair and place it near the window. From there, he could see the sky clearly. He believed his father lived somewhere up there. He did not know exactly where heaven was. No one had explained it clearly to him. Some people said it was above the clouds. Some said it was another world. Some said you cannot see it. But Sammy believed that if he looked long enough, maybe his father could see him looking back. Sometimes he would whisper small things. "Dad, I got good marks in English today." Or, "Dad, Mom looked tired. I helped wash the dishes." He spoke softly, almost like he was afraid the sky might break if he spoke too loudly. One evening, he saw other children playing football in the street with their fathers. One father lifted his son high in the air after he scored a goal. Sammy watched from the window. He did not cry. He just held the window bars tightly. That night, he opened an old wooden box under his bed. Inside were small treasures. A broken watch that belonged to his father. A photo where his father was carrying him on his shoulders. And a folded piece of paper where his father once wrote, "My hero." Sammy touched the paper carefully. He missed hearing that word, hero. Now people called him poor boy. At school, some children whispered. They did not mean to be cruel, but children do not always understand pain. One day during class, the teacher asked everyone to write about what my father means to me. Sammy stared at the blank page. The other children wrote quickly. Some smiled while writing. Sammy's pencil did not move. Finally, he wrote one line. "My father lives in the sky now, but I still need him here." When the teacher read it later, she became quiet. But Sammy did not notice. That evening, while sitting near the window, he saw a bird flying high in the air. It disappeared into the clouds. Suddenly, a thought came into his mind. If birds can go up there, if airplanes can go up there, maybe letters can go up there too. His heart started beating faster. It was a simple idea, maybe too simple, but for a child, hope does not need logic. He ran to his small school bag and took out a notebook. He tore a page carefully. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from excitement. For the first time in 2 years, he felt like he could actually talk to his father properly. Not just whispers to the sky, not just quiet tears at night, a real message. He imagined his father opening the letter in heaven, smiling, reading every word slowly. Maybe heaven had its own post office. Maybe angels delivered letters. The idea made him smile slightly. That night, while his mother was busy sewing clothes under a weak yellow light, Sammy sat in the corner of the room with his paper. He held the pencil tightly. He did not know how to start. Should he write "Dear Dad"? Or just "Dad"? He looked up at the ceiling for a moment. Then he began writing, slowly, carefully, each word coming straight from his small but heavy heart. Outside, the wind moved gently through the quiet street. Inside that small house, something important was happening. A boy was not just writing a letter. He was sending his pain, his love, and his hope into the sky. And he had no idea, that this simple letter would soon change not only his life, but someone else's too. That night, Sammy did not sleep early. The house was quiet. The only sound was the soft noise of his mother's sewing machine. The yellow light above them flickered sometimes, making shadows move slowly on the walls. Sammy sat on the floor with his notebook paper in front of him. He had never written such an important letter before. This was not homework. This was not a school test. This was something bigger. He held his pencil tightly and took a deep breath. Then he began. "Dear Dad." He stopped. His eyes became wet suddenly. He wiped them quickly with his sleeve. He did not want the paper to get wet. He continued writing slowly. "I hope you are okay in heaven. I hope it is not too cold there. Mom says heaven is beautiful, so I think you must like it." His writing was not perfect. Some letters were too big. Some words were spelled wrong. But every word was honest. He told his father about school. He wrote that math was harder now because his father used to sit beside him and explain things in a simple way. He wrote that sometimes he pretended his father was still sitting next to him when he did homework. Then he wrote about his mother. "She works a lot. She smiles in front of me, but I hear her crying at night. I try to sleep fast so she thinks I don't know." He paused again. His chest felt tight. He had never told anyone this. Not even his mother. He kept writing. "Dad, I am trying to be strong. I fix small things in the house. I carry heavy bags from the shop. I don't ask for toys anymore." He looked at the ceiling for a moment. Then he wrote something that he had been hiding inside his heart for 2 years. "But sometimes I don't want to be strong. Sometimes I just want to be your small boy again." The pencil stopped moving. A tear fell on the paper this time, leaving a small wet circle. Sammy stared at it. He did not wipe it away. He felt like that tear also belonged in the letter. After a few seconds, he continued. "I miss when you called me your hero. No one calls me that now." He swallowed hard. Then he added the last part. "If you can, please write back, or send me a sign. I will look at the sky every day. I promise I will keep waiting." At the bottom, he wrote carefully, "Love, your son, Sammy." He looked at the page for a long time. It did not look special. It was just a simple notebook paper. But to him, it felt like the most important thing in the world. He folded it carefully, making sure the lines were straight. Then he found an old envelope in a drawer. It was slightly crumpled, but it would work. On the front, he wrote slowly, "To my dad, Heaven." He did not know how to write heaven's address, so he simply wrote what he believed. He kissed the envelope softly before closing it. The next morning, Sammy woke up earlier than usual. His mother was surprised. "You're up early today," she said gently. Sammy nodded. "I have something important to do." He did not tell her about the letter. Some things feel too sacred to share. After breakfast, he walked outside with the envelope hidden inside his school bag. The street was quiet. A few shopkeepers were opening their doors. The air was still cold. He walked toward the red mailbox near the corner of the road. His heart started beating faster with every step. What if it did not reach? What if heaven did not have mail? What if no one read it? He stood in front of the mailbox for a long moment. He took the envelope out. It looked small in his hands, but his hope inside it felt very big. He closed his eyes for a second and whispered softly, "Please reach him." Then he pushed the letter inside the mailbox. It made a soft metal sound as it fell. That sound felt final. For a second, fear touched his heart. There was no way to take it back now. But then something else replaced the fear. Peace. For the first time in 2 years, Sammy felt lighter. He had said everything he wanted to say. He had sent his love into the sky. He turned around and walked slowly toward school. That day, he kept looking at the road every time he saw the postman in the distance. Not because he expected an answer immediately, but because hope had started living inside him again. He did not know that somewhere in the post office, a man named Mr. Kareem would soon pick up that envelope. He did not know that his small, honest words would shake a grown man's heart. And he definitely did not know that sometimes when a child sends a letter to heaven, heaven answers in unexpected ways. Mr. Kareem had delivered letters for most of his life. He knew how to stay professional. He knew how to keep distance. A postman's job was simple: deliver, smile, move on. But this letter was different. After reading Sammy's words, he placed the paper back into the envelope carefully, as if it were made of glass. He tried to continue his work. He picked up another letter, but he could not focus. The words from the boy's letter kept echoing in his mind. "Sometimes I just want to be your small boy again." That line did not leave him. He stood up and walked to the small window inside the post office. Outside, people were walking normally. Cars were moving. Life was going on. But inside him, something had stopped. He remembered a hospital room from many years ago. White walls, a small bed, his own son lying there, weak and silent. He remembered holding his son's hand for the last time. He remembered promising to stay strong. But strength does not remove pain. It only hides it. Mr. Kareem had buried his grief deep inside for years. He focused on work, on routine, on quiet evenings alone. He never remarried. He never had more children. He convinced himself that life moves forward. But when he read Sammy's letter, something cracked open inside him. It was not just ink on paper. It was a child speaking to a father who would never answer. And Mr. Kareem understood that silence too well. He looked at the envelope again. "To my dad, Heaven," he whispered softly. "He's waiting for a reply." Suddenly, he imagined a small boy sitting near a window every evening, watching the road, looking at the sky, hoping. That image hurt him deeply. He sat down and held his head in his hands. For the first time in years, he felt tears falling without stopping. Another worker noticed him. "Are you okay?" the man asked casually. Mr. Kareem quickly wiped his face and nodded. "Yes, just tired." But he was not tired. He was awake in a way he had not been for years. The rest of the day felt long. After finishing his deliveries, he returned home to his small apartment. The room was quiet like always. He placed his bag on the table and slowly took out the envelope again. He sat down under the soft yellow light and read the letter one more time. Then again, and again. Each time he noticed something new. The small mistakes in spelling. The tear stain on the paper. The way the boy tried to sound strong. He noticed something else too. There was no anger in the letter. No blaming. Only love. Only longing. Mr. Kareem stood up and walked toward an old cupboard. Inside it was a small box he had not opened in years. He hesitated. Then he opened it. Inside were photos of his son. Small toys. A birthday card. His hands shook as he touched them. He suddenly realized something. Sammy was not the only one who missed being called hero. He had missed calling someone my brave boy. He sat back down slowly. The room felt full of memories. And then, a thought entered his mind. A dangerous thought. A foolish thought. A beautiful thought. What if the boy received a reply? His heart started beating faster. He knew it was not his job. He knew it was not normal. He knew people might not understand. But he also knew one thing clearly. That child was waiting. He imagined Sammy checking the mailbox every day. He imagined disappointment growing slowly inside him. And Mr. Kareem could not accept that. He whispered to himself, "What if heaven answers through someone else?" The idea felt strange, but it also felt right. He sat at his small wooden table and pulled out a blank sheet of paper. He stared at it for a long time. What do you write to a child who misses his father? What words can heal such pain? He closed his eyes. He remembered what he used to tell his own son. "I am proud of you. You are braver than you think. I will always be with you." His eyes opened slowly. Maybe, just maybe, those were the words Sammy needed too. But before writing anything, he needed to know where the boy lived. He looked again at the envelope. There was a small, almost hidden return address written in the corner. The handwriting was light and uneven. He had not noticed it before. A street name, a house number. It was enough. Mr. Kareem held the envelope tightly. This was no longer just a letter. It was a responsibility, a choice, a chance to bring light into a small boy's dark world. He stood up and walked to the window of his apartment. Outside, the night sky was clear. Stars were shining quietly. For the first time in many years, he did not look at the sky with sadness. He looked at it with purpose. And softly, almost like a promise, he said, "If you cannot answer him, I will." He did not know that this decision would not only change Sammy's life, it would also slowly heal his own broken heart. Mr. Kareem did not sleep that night. The blank paper stayed in front of him for hours. Many times he tried to start writing. Many times he stopped. What if he said the wrong thing? What if the boy found out the truth? What if this was a mistake? But every time doubt entered his mind, he remembered one line from the letter. "Please write back. I will wait." That sentence felt like a small hand holding his heart. Finally, very late at night, he began to write. He did not try to sound perfect. He did not try to sound magical. He only tried to sound like a father. "My dear son," he wrote slowly. His hand trembled a little. "I see you every day. I see how hard you try. I see how you help your mother." He paused and wiped his eyes. "You think you are small, but you are braver than many grown men. I am proud of you." The words flowed more easily now. "I know you miss me. I miss you too. But being strong does not mean you cannot cry. Even heroes cry." When he finished writing, the sun was almost rising. He folded the paper carefully and placed it inside a clean envelope. On the front, he wrote, "For my brave son, Sammy." He stared at the envelope for a long time. There was still time to stop, still time to tear it apart. But he did not. The next afternoon, instead of adding the letter to regular mail, Mr. Kareem walked toward the small street written on Sammy's envelope. It was a narrow road with old houses. Paint was peeling from the walls. The doors looked tired. He found the house. Small, simple, quiet. His heart started beating faster. This was not like delivering normal mail. This felt personal. He stood in front of the door and knocked gently. No answer. He knocked again. This time, soft footsteps approached. The door opened slowly. A small boy stood there. Thin, quiet, deep eyes. "Sammy." They looked at each other. For a moment, no one spoke. Mr. Kareem suddenly felt nervous. He had delivered thousands of letters in his life, but now words felt difficult. Is this Sammy?" he asked softly. The boy nodded. "Yes." His voice was calm, but there was curiosity in his eyes. Mr. Kareem knelt slightly so he was closer to the boy's height. "I have something for you," he said. He held out the envelope. Sammy looked confused. "For me?" "Yes," Mr. Kareem answered gently. Sammy took the envelope carefully. When he saw the writing on the front, "For my brave son," his hands froze. His breathing changed. He looked up slowly at the postman. Who sent this?" Sammy asked in a small voice. Mr. Kareem swallowed. "It came through the mail," he said quietly. It was not a complete lie, but it was not the full truth either. Sammy stared at the envelope like it might disappear. His fingers were shaking as he opened it. Mr. Kareem stood there silently, feeling like his own heart was about to jump out of his chest. Sammy unfolded the paper. His eyes moved slowly across the words. First line, second line, third line. Then suddenly his lips began to tremble. He pressed the paper closer to his face. As he continued reading, tears started falling. Not small silent tears, but deep, heavy ones. His small body shook. Mr. Kareem felt panic for a second. Was this wrong? Did he hurt him instead of helping? But then something unexpected happened. Sammy hugged the letter tightly to his chest, like it was something alive, like it was something precious. "He answered," Sammy whispered. "He answered me." His voice was full of disbelief and hope. For the first time since his father died, his face looked different. There was pain in his tears, but there was also comfort. His mother appeared behind him, confused. "What is happening?" she asked softly. Sammy turned to her, eyes red but shining. "Mom," Dad wrote back. The mother looked at Mr. Kareem. Her eyes were searching. She understood more than the child did. She saw the kindness in his face, She saw the tears he was trying to hide. And in that silent moment, she understood everything without words. She did not question him. She did not stop the moment. Instead, she placed her hand gently on Sammy's shoulder. "Then your father must be very proud of you," she said quietly. Sammy nodded strongly. "Yes," he said, "I am brave." Mr. Kareem felt his chest tighten. He turned slightly, pretending to look at the street so they would not see his tears. He had planned to leave quickly, but his feet did not move. For the first time in many years, he felt something warm inside him. Not sadness, not emptiness, but purpose. Before leaving, he looked at Sammy once more. "Take care of that letter," he said softly. "I will," Sammy replied firmly. "I will keep it forever." As Mr. Kareem walked away from the small house, he felt lighter. He had broken a rule, but he had healed a heart. And maybe he had started healing his own too. He did not know that this was only the beginning, because sometimes after that day, something changed in Sammy. He no longer sat at the window every evening with empty eyes. Now he sat there with the letter in his hands. He read it again and again. Sometimes he smiled while reading. Sometimes he cried quietly. But the tears were different now. They were not full of loneliness. They were full of warmth. At school, his teacher noticed a change too. Sammy started raising his hand more often. He finished his homework with more care. When other children played football, he slowly joined them. He was still quiet, but he was no longer invisible. Meanwhile, Mr. Kareem could not forget the look on Sammy's face when he read the letter. That moment stayed with him. For years, he had lived alone in a silent apartment. His days were simple: work, home, sleep, repeat. But now, every time he passed Sammy's street during deliveries, his eyes searched for the small house. He told himself it was just to check if the boy was okay. Nothing more. One afternoon, as he walked down the road, he saw Sammy sitting outside on the steps of his house. The boy was trying to fix a small broken toy car with a screwdriver that looked too big for his hands. Mr. Kareem stopped walking. He watched quietly. The toys wheel kept falling off. Sammy tried again, and again, and again. Finally, he threw the screwdriver down in frustration. Mr. Kareem felt something move inside him. Without thinking too much, he walked toward the boy. "Need some help?" he asked gently. Sammy looked up. His face brightened. "It's you," he said softly. There was recognition in his voice. Mr. Kareem smiled. He sat beside Sammy and picked up the toy car. "Let's see what we can do." His hands moved slowly but carefully. Within a few minutes, the wheel was fixed properly. Sammy's eyes widened. "You're good at this," he said with small admiration. Mr. Kareem chuckled quietly. "I used to fix my son's toys all the time." The words slipped out before he could stop them. There was a short silence. Sammy looked at him with curiosity, but not pity. "What was his name?" Sammy asked gently. "Adam," Mr. Kareem replied. For the first time in years, he said his son's name without his voice breaking. Sammy nodded slowly. "That's a nice name." They sat quietly for a moment. Then Sammy spoke again. "I read the letter every night," he said softly. Mr. Kareem felt his heart beat faster. "Oh," he replied carefully. "Yes, it makes me feel like he is still close." He looked down at the toy car in his hands. "Sometimes I still miss him a lot," Sammy added. Mr. Kareem looked at the boy's small shoulders. He saw strength there, but also a child who needed guidance. "It's okay to miss someone," Mr. Kareem said quietly. "It means you loved them." Sammy thought about that. Then he nodded slowly. From that day on, Mr. Kareem started stopping by more often. Sometimes he brought small sweets. Sometimes he helped Sammy with homework. Math problems became easier when someone explained them patiently. The house slowly felt less heavy. Sammy's mother noticed everything. She saw how Sammy laughed a little more when the postman visited. She saw how he listened carefully when Mr. Kareem spoke. One evening, after Sammy went inside to get water, she spoke softly. "Thank you," she said. Mr. Kareem looked confused. "For what?" he asked. for answering a letter that had no address. Her voice was calm, not accusing, just grateful. Mr. Kareem lowered his eyes. I didn't want him to feel unheard, he replied honestly. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled. You gave him something I couldn't give alone, she said. That night, as Mr. Kareem walked back to his apartment, he realized something important. He had thought he was helping only Sammy, but Sammy was helping him too. The empty rooms of his apartment did not feel as cold anymore. He found himself thinking about math homework, about toy cars, about small questions children ask. For the first time in years, he felt needed. Not as a postman, but as a person. Weeks passed. One afternoon at school, there was a small event where fathers were invited. Sammy held the invitation paper tightly in his hands. He stared at it for a long time. When Mr. Kareem came by that evening, Sammy gave him the paper quietly. They say fathers should come, he said, looking down. There was no pressure in his voice, only hope. Mr. Kareem looked at the paper, then at the boy. His throat felt tight. I'm not your father, he said gently. Sammy looked up. I know, he replied. But you're the one who answers. Those words hit deeper than anything else. Mr. Kareem did not speak for a few seconds. Then he nodded slowly. I'll come. Sammy smiled in a way that could melt stone. And in that moment, something invisible but powerful formed between them. Not a replacement, not a lie, but a bond. Because sometimes family is not only about blood. To answer,